Good afternoon, and thank you for taking the opportunity to be here today. I'm grateful that you took the time out of your day to be present for this announcement. If you're asking yourself why this meeting was scheduled, the answer really is simple. We value your efforts and the daily contributions you make in delivering the services that we do every day. The reason I invited you here today is to give you a first-hand glimpse of what process improvement initiative we are rolling out entails. And further, I will explain how this initiative, titled Rapid Improvement, aligns with a commitment I made a little over a year ago. Following, Chris Spranger will go into some of the finer details as it relates to the structure of the training and the projects. At the end, you'll be invited to ask questions as well. Upon assuming the position of mayor just over a year ago, I began to observe the processes things took to get done. Whether it was plowing our streets, mowing lawns, or responding to 911 calls, they all find a way to get accomplished. It was also during this time that my eyes were open to the processes things took to get accomplished. And along the way, I asked many questions. Most frequently, I asked the question, why we do certain things the way we do. Although there are many good reasons why we do certain things the way we do, frequently the answer was because we've always done them this way. Further, residents ask me, and some may ask you, why a department does something a certain way, and why not a different way. My response, the same answer shared with me when I asked the question, was because they've always been done this way. It became apparent to me that our employees lack the formal opportunity and training to analyze our everyday processes. Can any of you think of a time in the last year, or the last 3 years, or ever, that you took the time, or your department took the time to analyze your processes? If you did, you may have frustratingly scrapped the attempt because you didn't have the buy-in or didn't have the time. For most, there hasn't been enough time in the day or the week to accomplish it. And this is the premise of why we all stopped what we would otherwise be doing today to attend this meeting. The fact is, employees and their time are the lifeblood of our organization. What you do on an hourly, a daily, or a weekly basis determines what gets accomplished and what doesn't. With this thought, I felt it was crucial for us to break away from our activities today for a brief period to be introduced to what I hope will soon, and it will take time, to be ingrained in the culture of our organization here at the city. So you might be asking yourself, what's in it for me? Well, the obvious. The idea is that you will spend less time doing things that may not matter or contribute to the final outcome. The second is a financial incentive. While I can't commit specifically today to this, the exploration will be had to carve out any sort of savings or potential savings as an incentive for those of you that participate on project teams. So the next question you might be asking, why does this matter? Think about what job tasks you did just today. Now think about the time that was required to complete each one of those tasks. We all hear the phrase, there is not enough hours in the day. The reality is this phrase is spot on. Everything we do throughout the day requires a lot of time. A universally scarce resource across every one of our departments is we just don't have enough time. And this is the exact case for process improvement. What process improvement seeks to do is shorten the time or processes it takes to get certain tasks accomplished. A great example of this, to be very simple, is the process of fixing a pothole. On the surface, to all of us and to many residents, a pothole repair sounds very simple. You take the material and you fill the hole. But the entire process is much more complex. So, what is considered when we talk about a pothole repair? You can see the points up here. You identify it. You either get a complaint from a resident or an employee finds it. You prioritize it against your scarce resources. What are the employees that are needed to repair it? What's the equipment necessary? You look at the location of the potholes. Is it a pothole on a dead-end street, or is it on a main thoroughfare? So after prioritizing, you can have the random location throughout the city. Then you look at the materials to be used for repair, and which takes potentially and what's going to be the longest lasting. And then you have your weather and your environmental considerations. What are the long and intermittent winters How many times is that plow truck going to drive over that pothole? And then you have your drastic temperature changes. And so these are just some of the processes it takes to repair that pothole. There are local governments using process improvement initiative and concepts already. And so when you apply it to the pothole repair, what they've found is by making changes to the process, the pothole can be filled much quicker, increasing residents' satisfaction. By looking at one city that instituted process improvement to this pothole repair example, average repair time went from 4 days to at most 3 hours, using the same amount of employees. Notice I didn't say fewer employees. Think about the potential of this. Not only does this decrease the amount of time spent on an activity to free up other time for us to focus on other tasks, it has enormous benefits for our residents. Many who might feel unfairly that the city is intentionally ignoring pothole problems, when in reality we are addressing it. It's just not the most efficient way that we do so. Further, process improvement provides residents the confidence that we are doing things the most effective, the most efficient, and utilizing the most current and modern methods. Last January, in my first State of the City address, I shared this vision as well during the campaign of streamlining operations to make government more efficient, more effective, and customer-friendly. I announced an initiative for consideration by City Council aiming to do just that. Further, in addition to just accomplishing our regular tasks, we have a responsibility to our residents to make sure that we are doing things as effectively and efficiently. This doesn't mean reduction of our current employed workforce. Last March, City Council approved the process improvement training for our employees. And since then, we've been working with Midstate to configure a training program that fits just us. Further, Chris Spranger has been involved with us to assist us to act as a coach and to act as a consultant to assist us on this journey. So let's talk about Lean Six Sigma. It's been thrown around as, what is this Lean Six Sigma? The words get misplaced, one before another. But the initiative doesn't start and stop with just the training. To be clear, the training in Lean Six Sigma will only serve as the basic foundation for this rapid improvement initiative. Concepts like DMAIC, the theory of constraints, and statistical process control, all of which Chris will go into some greater detail. Further, we must take these concepts that we learn in the classroom and apply them to our everyday activities through participation by each one of you and all of our employees to make them our own. Chris will also be assisting with our steering committee, who will be charged with project identification and selection, so we have all the pieces in place for successful implementation right here in our own city. Since Lean Six Sigma will only serve as the foundation, it is more appropriate to call this initiative something different than Lean Six Sigma, or even just process improvement. So let's define rapid improvement and take a moment to understand where it came from. So why was this name selected to accurately capture this initiative? We wanted a term that would capture the idea of process improvement while still identifying that it would work in our own organization. We have to adapt it to our own people and to our own processes and make it our own. Rapid improvement came from an identification and realization that the city's approach to operational efficiency would be unique to us. What one city learned isn't what we're going to learn. What one business learned through Lean Six Sigma isn't what we're going to learn. Let's take the first word, rapid. Refers to the city of Wisconsin Rapids. Obviously, it's in our name, Rapids, right? But it also stands for the uniqueness in this approach that's going to be custom tailored for our own operations. Take the second word, improvement. We all can agree improving upon what we've already done is a good thing. And improvement must become regular. It also must institute the way of thinking in everything we do. The idea is this initiative will be recognized not only by our employees, but also to our residents and council members as well. So in the spirit of transparency, we will be tracking our progress and making that information available on our city website. So it's time for improvement, rapid improvement, the Wisconsin Rapids way. Although this has been a vision of mine that I'm proud to see come to light after City Council's blessing, the goal is to see the principles of process improvement permeate everything we do. So before handing it over to Chris, I want to give an invitation to all of you that while we have formed some working teams and our training teams, we still have some seats to be filled. So if you have any interest following today's conversation, please reach out to myself or to Nick so we can get you involved with the training as well. This is an awesome opportunity for us to change the way we do business as we know it. And I think we all can stand to gain, and our residents can appreciate the fact that we're taking the time to look at what we do. Chris?
Well, thank you, Mayor. And I'm actually excited and glad to be here to be a part of this improvement journey for the city of Wisconsin Rapids. For those of you that have not met me yet, or I haven't had the opportunity to work with you yet, I'm Chris Spranger. I am the director of Lean Six Sigma over at Riverview Hospital, and I also operate my own business that focuses on implementing business improvement programs like the one we're discussing today. I have been working in the field of process improvement for over 15 years in the manufacturing industry, service industries, healthcare, as well as the public sector. And what we're going to talk about today, first of all, why an improvement program? So why even go down this route? Why even talk about this thing called improvement? I'm going to give a brief overview of Lean Six Sigma and kind of take away the mystique of those mysterious words that are used to describe this type of a program. Also talk about public sector momentum and what's going on in other public organizations. Talk about how it works, and talk about how you as employees, what you can expect moving forward, things you can expect to see, things you can expect to hear as this moves forward, this initiative. And then at the end, because any great improvement program that goes on, we need valuable input from employees. Employees are a valuable part of the process, so we're going to have a question and discussion period at the conclusion of my presentation. So just for a show of hands, how many people have an unlimited amount of time? Anyone? This is the interactive portion of the, right? Right? Nobody does. Nobody has an unlimited amount of time. And realistically, when you get right down to it, in your job, you can classify all the activities you do into one of the three categories that's listed up here. You're either working on strategic things, big change, so maybe the organization's implementing a new computer system or something like that. You have a portion of your time that's involved with that change. You also have day-to-day things where you're doing things to satisfy a customer need. You're actually adding value to the customer and fulfilling what their desires are. And then the third thing up there is the problem solving or fixing things. So something's not going right, and now I have to make a phone call, or I have to try to troubleshoot, or I have to figure out why this information's missing on a form, or why I don't have the materials I need. There's that portion of your day. Every one of your day is different, and it may not look exactly like this pie is divided up here, but if we collectively take everyone at the whole organization and created a pie, we could really classify where the time for the City of Wisconsin Rapids employees is going. And what Lean Six Sigma offers to do is create a structured approach around solving the problems so that they go away for the long term. And then from that point forward, you have more time now to dedicate to the day-to-day value-added operations and also the strategic initiatives. So what do these problems look like? For anybody that has done work for any period of time, you've seen things that look like this, right? Got excess supplies, excess inventory, you've got things that are time consuming, like things that I mentioned. You have to call someone back because you don't have the information you need. I have a really good example of someone I know who lives in another city, has rental property, and they have a tenant, this is about a year ago, have a tenant who left their garbage cans out at the curb for more than what the ordinance allowed. So this person that I know, his name's Randy, he was telling me this story, and he said that he gets a letter in the mail that says, you know, garbage cans have been at the curb for more than 24 hours, it's $25. So he wasn't real happy about it, obviously talked to the tenant, but he drove to City Hall, he paid the $25 fine, and moved on with life. 2 days later, he gets an invoice in the mail from the city saying that was his bill for the $25 that he had already paid. So somehow that information, someone recognized the ordinance violation, took it back to city operations, and it somehow got communicated to two different people, two different departments, duplicated their efforts, 2 stamps, 2 envelopes, 2 people putting effort into something that was already resolved. Well, he had actually called the lady back and said, you know, I already paid this. Is this a duplicate thing? It looks like the same date. And the lady said, well, hold on a second. Let me look in our system. And she got another call while they were talking, so I had to put him on hold. looked in the system, got back on, said, yep, indeed, don't worry about that invoice, just throw that one away. And that kind of got me thinking. He ran into that problem once. How many other people ran into that problem from a customer standpoint? And not only that, from that city's perspective, how much effort are they putting in not only on that process, but other processes that are similar, where those two people, those two employees, both well-meaning, are now duplicating efforts and wasting time that could be used on something else. I really actually thought to myself, I wanted to pay Randy $25 to do it again and see what happened. Because I can guarantee, if no one's looking at the process, nothing's going to change. And that's valuable time that can be used by that organization to satisfy the customer in this case. If satisfying is getting a fine, I guess. So Lean Six Sigma, to define these, again, these complicated terms, and I'm going to make it as simple as possible because the concepts really are simple. Lean Six Sigma comes from two words, one being lean and one is Six Sigma. The lean portion, what we're talking about is reducing waste, removing non-value added steps in a process, so things that aren't advancing the situation forward. What it really does is improves the connections and examines the connections in the process for satisfying the customer need, and in turn improves customer experience and speeds up processes. So at the bottom you see the speed is really, really what lean is about. It's doing things more quickly to satisfy a customer need. What Six Sigma focuses on is reducing variation in a process, and what that does is it creates predictable processes that we can plan around, and it improves quality. So if you put the two together, the speed with the accuracy, down at the bottom you get a faster response time, you get better quality, you get improved employee satisfaction because you're not having to deal with all those problems that I had listed a few slides back, and then you also get improved customer satisfaction because they're getting what they want a lot quicker than they were before. Just a brief history of where this came from. And concepts of lean are traced all the way back to the beginning, to the production lines in the Ford assembly plants. And they started putting things together in an assembly line fashion to make things that they recognized they could get more vehicles out, focusing on the output and some of their activities. After World War II, Toyota obviously was devastated by the war. They needed to rebuild, Toyota in Japan needed to rebuild their economy using very little. They had very little money, so they really had to focus on using the resources that they had to improve the process. In 1985, Motorola came up with this concept called Six Sigma, aimed at reducing variation, because they discovered if they're making electronic devices and one little component in that electronic device fails even a few times, the whole device isn't going to work. So they really needed to focus on perfection, and that's really what Six Sigma is all about. Into the 90s, General Electric took both of these concepts, put them together, and really created an improvement program centered on fast, efficient processes that have very little variability, that are very consistent. And then other companies latched on. Aaron's over in Brillion was one in Wisconsin that took on that concept in early 2000. And they really helped other organizations such as ThedaCare, non-manufacturing organization. ThedaCare provides healthcare services over in the Fox Valley. They took a trip to Aaron's and they observed. And they looked at what Aaron's was doing. And recognizing that they're not making widgets, they were still able to take these concepts and apply them in their healthcare facility. And they're one of the leading healthcare providers as far as efficiency and providing value for customers using lean methodology. Around that same time, you see on the timeline Bank of America, again, another non-industrial organization. And then another big one, the first that I could find, a city government applying Lean and Six Sigma concepts, and that's the city of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And that happened all the way back in 2000. So there's been a lot of momentum moving, using what people have learned in manufacturing and realizing that these aren't just manufacturing principles, these are good business management principles. So there's some momentum going on. I believe some of you here at the city were at a Lean Government Conference that was in Stevens Point last fall. That was the second annual State of Wisconsin Lean Government Conference. They're having a third annual this year. So there's a lot of entities talking about this lean government, this efficient government type stuff. And it's catching on. You can see the city of Appleton has a program that they just recently kicked off. Marathon County, the village of Weston, Brown County over by Green Bay has had a program in place for actually quite a few years. And then the city of Stevens Point recently started this initiative about 1.5 years ago. One other thing of interest that I found, Executive Order 66 coming from Governor Scott Walker at the state level has said that by engaging leadership and staff down here on the bottom, which is important. It's not only leadership, it's also staff. It's all of us together. In the improvement process, he wants them to understand how to apply lean government principles, eliminate waste, save time, standardize workflow, and decrease process complexity. And really, again, all of those things help customers, they help employees, they help taxpayers. Some of the public sector results, I know I mentioned the city of Fort Wayne. They've been practicing this since 2000. You can see the amount of money they've estimated that they've saved since then just by practicing these methods and becoming more efficient. Erie County, New York's another one that's a mature program, has been around for quite some time. They actually credit Lean Six Sigma for a $40 million budget surplus. The state of Iowa has completed nearly 100 projects. And then also a smaller city, Springdale, Arkansas, similar to our size, had an article recently in one of the professional publications that I subscribe to. So it's starting to make its way through all levels in all cities. So how does it work? Got a brief little video to kind of give you an overview.
Improvement activities within a total quality process take on many forms. Let's begin by defining a work process. A work process is a series of definable, repeatable, predictable activities which together produce the required result for an internal or external customer. Definable means you can draw a picture of it. You can define the input, output, and the customer. Predictable means you know ahead of time what results will be produced. Repeatable means the outcome can be assured and repeated each time you use the process. Process management is easy to talk about, but difficult to do. That's because most organizations are organized vertically, in silos. This arrangement, which dates back to the early days of the Industrial Revolution, is designed to facilitate command and control. In other words, it is designed for internal convenience rather than for customer convenience. At their worst, these silos can come to resemble citadels as departments fight for influence and control.
What's going on? This is not the way I want this. What do you mean, what's going on? I told you never do anything right around here. Oh, last time you did something for me, I have to redo it myself. Come on, that's not my job. It's your job. I thought that your boss, he wants you to do his job. I'm the boss around here. I don't have a boss. Don't try bossing me, you're not my boss.
This results in a lot of pushing and shoving, which consumes energy and resources, while doing nothing to help satisfy customers. In fact, it makes it more difficult to satisfy customers. Why? Because customers are not served vertically the way most organizations are organized. Instead, they are served horizontally.
Does that happen here? Ever? Right? I get some nods. It happens everywhere. I mean, it's don't want to single you out, but again, organizations are set up like this. Technical experts are leading their technical experts, but the problem is customers touch many of those departments in every interaction. And what Lean Six Sigma really focuses on, like the video mentioned, let's talk about the process. Let's talk about the process of how we're satisfying customer needs, what those handoffs are, what departments they need to go to, how can we simplify it, and how we can get the customer the end result a lot more easily than we did before. So this naturally, organization-wide, builds teamwork, and the customers will feel it. Okay, so moving forward, what to expect, and the mayor kind of alluded to his path forward, but you're gonna hear some more dialogue around a steering committee, and the role of the steering committee is really just to be the eyes and the ears of the deployment of this rapid improvement initiative and how it's going. So to identify additional training needs, identify projects that are viable candidates for improvement, make sure things are being deployed, and just really identify opportunities for improvement moving forward. There's a training that's being conducted by Mid-State Technical College that the mayor had talked about, and I believe that starts in the next few weeks. There's a group of employees that will be going through what's called Greenbelt training. And Greenbelts really are trained on a core set of tools, core set of Lean Six Sigma tools, and they're gonna go through the process of how to lead a project improvement or a process improvement initiative and be able to facilitate that whole thing through to completion. There's also, I would assume you're gonna hear about belts. So green belts, black belts. As confusing as this is, as much as I don't like it being referred to in my industry, just think of it as like karate. Okay, the higher up the belt level you go, the more skills, the more experience and things that you have in conducting these process improvement initiatives. You're also going to hear about projects and a lot of cross-functional teams that are working on those projects and those process improvement initiatives. So again, like the mayor said, be engaged. If you don't know, ask. One of the big things in a successful process improvement initiative is collaboration among all employees through all levels of the organization. So the overarching goals of an improvement program really eliminate the non-value adding activities of the waste that I'd previously discussed, aimed at improving the customer experience. It's also really about simplifying your job, making life easier for yourself and your coworkers, and to enable you to be able to deliver more services without having to increase resources, build trust and collaborations at all levels to overcome organizational problems, and really long-term create a self-sustaining improvement program and establish necessary internal expertise to drive long-term continuous improvement. And now I'll finish up with one of my favorite quotes. It comes from Mr. Shingo, who was an industrial engineer who was largely involved with Toyota when they were rebuilding after World War II. And he said, "Continuous improvement is not about what you do well. That's the work you do. Continuous improvement is about getting rid of all the things that get in the way of your work, the headaches, all the things that slow you down. That is really what continuous improvement is all about." That's all I have. I'd like to pass it back to the mayor.
Sure. So at this point, I'd like to answer any questions maybe that you have of Chris or of myself as we take this forward. I'm not sure which mic, Andy, which mic, are they both live? Just this one's live.
That's the one for the room, the other one's for the tape.
Okay, very good. So for starters, does anybody have any questions? Anybody have any questions? I didn't plant any questions, but I'll ask some questions. So one question might be, so when you start reducing waste, you eliminate people. Is that true? When you start eliminating waste or stopping or not doing things that may have been perceived as wasteful in the past, do you eliminate people? What's your experience at Riverview?
My experience at Riverview is
Sorry.
get a step stool. My experience at Riverview and other places is the successful programs, they put a lot of money into training their employees and teaching them how to problem solve and teaching them how to identify these wastes and teaching them how to collaborate and work together. And a lean organization doesn't take that opportunity when they create an improvement and shorten their job. They don't lay them off. They find other jobs for them to do that add value for the customer or have them work on other improvements to make life even better. I mean, the lean strategy, one of the core things with lean is that humans are really the only organizational asset that can go up in value. Everything else depreciates. If we put money into our people, that's where you'll get a long-term sustainable advantage.
Another question might be, who are the trainees and when does that training start? So we've got a group of about 25 individuals that will be trained from the city, from Water and Light, and possibly from the library to participate in 17 sessions. And those 17 sessions will go all the way through October to wrap up hopefully by the budget time because we've got a number of meetings that start at that point. So we'll be through that process, and that's really when our work begins. So Mid-State's job will be done. Chris's work will still be underway. Chris will be with us for 1 year from start to finish. And so this is what we're calling Rapid Improvement 1.0. This is our first of 4 meetings. We're going to have quarterly meetings as report outs. Myself, I'll be going through the training as well as a number of department heads, as well as other people in other departments. So the point being is we value your feedback and your input. We want to know what's on your mind. We also want to know what are your pain points. What are the things that drive you and your department crazy that you have to do? Many of those things surface every day, and I think the better we're able to get the steering committee up and running to start looking at potential projects, identifying them, and putting them through the pipeline, if you will, of the lean methodology, we will be able to streamline operations and ultimately make residents happier. I think that's really what we're all here to do. And if people can see, and if residents can see noticeable, tangible change, it further quantifies why we're here in the jobs that we do. Oftentimes residents may look unfairly upon city employees and look unfairly upon us. And I think this is an opportunity for us to prove them wrong and to justify everything that we do. So by that time, somebody has to have a question. Yes, Jesse.
I was wondering if Mr. Spranger could provide an example of a process that was improved at Riverview, just to give us a real-life example of how the process works.
One example that readily comes to mind, because we're kind of finishing up with another improvement wave right now, is if you were to come to Riverview's emergency department, a year and a half ago, if you needed to get admitted to our inpatient floor, it would have taken about 140 minutes. Once the doctor said, yeah, I think we're going to admit you. So we have worked on that in 3 waves with 3 different teams, and the recent team has gotten to the point that this last month it takes 34 minutes. So they've reduced that amount of time. Again, haven't added resources. All we're doing is taking apart the process, when it's happening, what's wasteful, what's adding value, taking those pieces apart, putting them back together in a better way to accomplish, the objective that we're after. And our goal is to get to 30, and we're going to continue, going after that until we get there, and we're, 6-7 minutes away at this point.
Other questions? Some might ask, what's the target when you say, okay, we're going to go through, we're going to invest money in training employees at 17 sessions, 4 hours a crack, 25 employees. That's a lot of time. That's a big investment. It certainly is, and that's why we're taking the deliberate step to take a break from what we're doing to really look at what we do. It's been said that local governments can save, on average, the rule of thumb is 20%. And it's not 20% off this bottom line of our city budget, but maybe it's 20% of fuel that we burn as we drive across the city 3-4 times, and maybe we only need to make that one trip once or twice. So that's where you start getting at the 20% number. It's not necessarily my rule of thumb or my goal, but ultimately it will shed light on and defend a lot of the things and a lot of the ways we do certain things. Other questions? Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for being here. This is the first of many communications you'll hear on the Rapid Improvement Initiative. You'll be seeing, there's a My View in the newspaper today that really characterizes everything that I mentioned earlier, but it also talks about, really for full transparency, gets the residents involved and makes them aware of what it is we're doing. City Council oftentimes questions things or doesn't necessarily hear about the improvements that we're all making, and this will be an opportunity for us to quantify them and for them to obviously support us and feel good about the jobs that we do every day. So thank you for being here, and again, if you have interest in participating, pay attention, but also if you're interested in getting through the training, we might be able to accommodate you in that first round of training this year. All right, thank you.